What do you do after God has done this great work in your heart and enabled you to forgive the person who has wounded you, hurt you, lied about you, did things that are unimaginable? And oftentimes, this is a person who is very close to you. What do you do with the memory of that hurt? So you know that you've forgiven, and perhaps God has restored the relationship, but in the back of your mind is the memory of what they have done. What do you do with that? I'm often asked, is it possible to forgive and forget? And so I want to address that in today's Morning Joy. Now, I shared my story, my testimony of how God miraculously enabled me to forgive my stepfather who shot and killed my mother and then proceeded to shoot me in both arms. He killed himself the same day, but before I left the hospital, God enabled me to forgive. What I want to share with you in these next couple of morning joys, this is not something that I have done. These are some lessons that I have learned. And as I look back on my story, I see the miraculous hand of God at work. I also want to mention this book that I read, I think it was in the last year of seminary, that has really helped me to process and to reflect theologically about my experience and this miracle that God did. Now, if you missed my previous story, you can just look back in a couple of videos. It is a longer one where I shared what happened on October 23rd, 1987. But the book that helped me is written by Miroslav Volf, and I'm probably mispronouncing the name. The name of the book is called The End of Memory. And I'm going to draw some pieces out of that book because it really helped me to process what happened. In the book, Mr. Volf, who is a professor at Yale, he tells his own story and his traumatic experience. And one of the things that he encourages us to do is to remember rightly, to remember correctly. And, there were times where somebody has hurt me, offended me, and I have seen them afterwards. In my mind, it tells me that, wait, you did something to me, but God's grace, I could not remember what it is that they've done. That's happened to me several times, and I give God thanks for it. In fact, I did not remember what they did. Now, in the case of the fatal shooting of my mother by my stepfather, I can remember the precise detail. I can walk you through everything that happened on that morning. Now, what did God do? Miroslav Volf says, remember rightly. And if you're struggling with, forgetting what this person have done, one of the things that he encourages us to do is to remember rightly. And, one of the things I recognize in my story is that I have made God the hero in the story. What do I mean? Oftentimes when someone has done us wrong, what do? We rehearse it again and again. And every time we play it again and again and again in our mind, we make the person out, or perhaps even the situation, so strong, so heavy. And, we let ourselves be the victim, and this person, this perpetrator, this person who's done this to you, they become the villain in our memory. And perhaps rightly so, right? What they did was wrong. But I recognize, after a reflection, that whenever I tell my story, and I've had the opportunity to tell it to a variety of audiences, groups of people, individuals, I recognize that I've always made God the hero. Yes, I tell what my stepfather did, but I have never, made him the villain. What I have done, I made God the hero, and I focused on the redemptive work that God did in my life. I focused that it was by his grace, by his power, by his love that he enabled me to forgive. And as a result, I can live my life with purpose, with joy, with peace in my heart. This is not something that I did. And as I said before, this is the hand of God. So if you're struggling with forgetting what the person have done, as you remember what happened, focus on the redemption work, the redemptive work of Christ in your story, in your memory. Let God be the hero. Focus in on what God did for you, the lessons he taught you, how he healed you, how he brought you out, how he restored you and blessed you, how he put your feet more solidly, you know what I mean, on solid ground. The psalmist talks about he picked me up out of the miry clay, planted my feet on a rock. So I say the first step I want to encourage you is to focus in your memory and let God be the hero. Join me for the follow-up to this. I'll talk about it a bit more because forgiveness is so important, and I want to share my story. So I'm going to be doing Morning Joys Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And if you like these videos and you find them helpful, I encourage you to share it with others. God bless you. See you in the next video.